For much of its history, Myanmar has been ruled by the military. But in 2011, facing protests and international pressure, the junta ceded power to a civilian government. Thus began a decade-long experiment with democracy, led by long-time resistance leader Aung San Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy. The military did not lose all its power, though. It maintained control over foreign policy and internal security, and it ensured continuing influence in domestic politics by virtue of a 25% minimum share of seats in the national parliament. Suu Kyi, meanwhile, disappointed the West's expectations, supporting the military's crackdown on the Rohingya ethnic minority. While Myanmar has long been controlled by its majority Bamar ethnic group, it also includes at least 100 ethnic minorities, such as the Karen and Shan. These have often faced discrimination and brutal oppression, and in some cases, they have formed armies and fought back against the Tatmadaw, as the army is known. The decade since 2011 saw a gradual waning of the military's domination of Myanmar. Elections in 2015 resulted in a landslide for the NLD. That result was repeated in 2020. The junta, worried it was losing influence, toppled the civilian government in a coup in February 2021. Suu Kyi was jailed and prosecuted.
Well, this is our worst nightmare. What we're seeing is the Burmese military destroying the democracy that has resulted in a landslide win for the NLD. I mean, it wasn't just a small win for the NLD. The 2020 election was a landslide. And overnight, the military has returned Burma to the pre-2010 situation of military governments. You know, it's going to result in Myanmar becoming a pariah state.
The coup plunged Myanmar into turmoil. The junta has faced opposition on multiple fronts, not only from ethnic armed groups that have long resisted its rule, but from remnants of the former government. Desperate to impose order, it increasingly resorted to violence, bombarding civilian areas and crushing dissent.
We are faced here with a system of ruthless repression designed to coerce and subjugate its people and to erode a society so that the predatory interests of the military are preserved. Senseless military attacks are exacerbating the human rights crisis with interconnected humanitarian, political and economic impacts, imposing an unbearable toll on the people in Myanmar.
Meanwhile, modest economic gains since 2011 have been reversed as Western governments reimposed sanctions and Myanmar once again became isolated. As the economy collapsed, organised crime filled the void and drug trafficking boomed, affecting neighbours like India and China. Now, with the junta losing control, there is no end in sight for the country's turmoil. Rupert Stone, TRT World.